Okay, so for this brain teaser, we're going to be doing evens and odds in JavaScript. So let's get into this. Let's think about how we're going to do this. Just, on a piece of paper and with a pencil. So what we're going to get for this one is we're going to get an array of numbers. And we want to return an array, or we want to return two arrays that would have the odds in one and the evens in another. So with this, what we want to do is we want to go through each of these things, decide whether it's even or not, and then throw it into the appropriate array. So go through each item, determine if it's even, and then throw it in the array it needs to go into. Now there's one thing we need to think about is we have two arrays. So how do we return two things from a function? We technically can only return one thing. So this is where people get stuck on this one, is how do you return two arrays? Well, we're going to need to return these in either an array of arrays. So we could do it like this. We could return it as an array of arrays, or we could return it as a object with the key odds and the key evens. Either one would work for this brain teaser, but let's go ahead and return the object. So now that we kind of have an idea of how to do this, we want to go through each thing. We're going to create this object that's keeping track of the odds array and the evens array, and then that's the thing we're going to finally return after we go through all of these items. And then we'll also go ahead and look at this using the reduce method. But for now, let's just go in and get this solved. So let's just write out our test array. Just gonna make it right here, const test array. Let's just have this equal to 1, 0, 3, 9, and 10. And then let's write our function, const odds and evens. So this is going to take in a numbers array, an array of numbers. And then we want to create these two arrays that are going to keep track of our evens and odds. I'm just going to have two arrays here that I'm just going to set to empty arrays. Now we can go through each of our numbers. And then we can just check if our number mod2 equals 0. This means it is odd. So we can do our numbers dot, our evens dot push. We can push onto the evens array the number. Else we can go ahead and do our evens dot push, or odds dot push our number. And then as we said here, we want to return a object. So I'm just going to use evens, set that equals to the evens value, the evens array, and then another key odds, set that equal to the odds array. Now with ES6, if I have an object that has the same key and value, the same name, I can actually use a shorthand and just write it like this. If the key and value are the same, I just can use that shorthand. So let's go ahead and test this. Just do a console.log, do our odds and evens, and then pass it that test array. run this. I have this file called bt.js. And there we go, evens. We could return that, 0 and 10, and odds 1, 3, and 9. And like I said, I could also have returned this as in an array. So just see what that would have looked like. That would have been fine. Now I just have an array of arrays, where the first index is going to be my evens, the second is going to be the odd. But that's how I can, if I want to return multiple things from a function, I'm either going to have to return it as an object or in an array or another data structure. That would allow me to do that. All right, so that works, and this is a fine implementation. Let's just once again, let's see another way how to do this, and let's get some more practice with reduce. So we can do this function with reduce. So let's rewrite this: const odds and evens reduce. So once again, this is going to take in a numbers array. And we're going to go ahead and call our reduce function. Reduce. So here's our function. Here's our reduce. Our reduce takes a function to get called on each thing, and then it takes a starting value, starting accum value. And here, this function it takes, this first argument is going to be the accumulator, and then this is going to be the actual number. So with this, if I was returning this the same way as an object, the starting value for my accumulator, I'd want this to be the object with a evens array. That's going to be an empty array, and then a odds empty array. Kind of like I did right up here. I created these two arrays, and then I returned them. But here I'm creating them in the object, and that's my default value for my accumulator. And remember, the reduce function, whatever this function inside of here returns is going to be the new accumulator for the next value. So what we can do here is we can say, do something like this, and let's do this as a ternary this time instead of an if-else statement. Let's do a number mod 2 equal 0 question mark. So if this is even, let's grab our accumulator dot evens, because this accumulator is going to be this object right here that we're setting as our starting value, and then I can just go ahead and push the number. If it's not even, I can grab my accumulator, grab my odds array, and then push the number on that. Now remember, this reduce function, I need to return the new accumulator. So I'm changing the accumulator here, but I need to also remember to return it. So it will push the number, it will change this accumulator, and then as I return it, the next time around, it will be that. Now something else that's good to do when you're learning this reduce function is just a console.log. We can throw in some, like messages. If you're ever confused what these values are, just throw in some console.logs. So then we can call this function odds and even reduce. Let's go ahead and pass this to test array. And another thing I forgot is once this reduce is done, it's going to return the final value of this accumulator, but we need to return that final value for this function. So I need a return right here. So we could say something like this: let odds, or let nums equal that. So throw that into a variable, and then we could console.log nums. But we're also going to see these logs of the accumulator. So let's look at this. I have a spelling error. Accum is not defined. I spelled that wrong. Line 26. Where is that? Right here. 2 C's, 1 N. All right. So yeah, notice here, here's our first log from our first method. But notice here when I log the accumulator is evens and odds. And here's my number. So it's pushing that 1 onto my accumulator because I've logged this after I make the change. And so this is what I'm going to return right here. And then the next time around, you know, the number is 0. And so then we throw that onto our evens array. And this becomes our new accumulator for the next function call. And we kind of repeat that process going through each element until we finally get done. And once again, we log our object, which has the evens key and the odds key. So maybe a challenge, Ollie, for you is try to figure out how to do this function with the reduce method, but instead of returning this object here, return an array of arrays. Now that's going to require you to change this up too. So if you want to go ahead and try that, go ahead and do that. That would be a pretty good challenge. Cool. That is it for me. So I'll throw this code out in Slack. Or sorry, I'll throw this code out in a GIST and then I'll put it in the comments. Cool. Thank you.